Is this the first time I'm getting this exhibit?
To the court.
Apparently.
I'm just being given this now on the third day of trial?
The original with the court administrator and a copy of Exhibit 76 to the witness, Mr. Stevens. Mr. Stevens, Exhibit 76.
Your Honor, I'd object to entering this exhibit.
It's overruled.
Has it been authenticated?
This is what the
I
intent
need to do
is.
that right now.
We had to do that with every exhibit so far, right? We had to, I don't know what the word is, but we had to...
Mr. Coughlin, I've made my ruling. Will you please let her just go ahead
Yes, Your
and
Honor.
ask the question?
Now, Exhibit 76 is a 4-page exhibit, and the first page is a facsimile transmission dated September 14, 2006, to Laura, Nevada DMV, from Bill Stevens. Followed by, on page 2, a letter dated September 14, 2006, to Nevada DMV from William D. Stevens. Mr. Stevens, do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes.
How do you recognize this exhibit?
I wrote this letter. I signed it. My business card is copied on the front page of the fax. And, well, the authorization and release that's attached to that, I would have attached to it to show our the applicant's consent to have these records released if necessary.
And what did you do with this letter once you wrote it?
I had my paralegal fax it, or our paralegal fax it, to the Nevada Department of Motor Vehicles.
And is this the letter that you just testified that you sent to the Nevada Department of Motor Vehicles?
Yes, it is.
Did you ever receive a response to this letter?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Okay. Let the record reflect I am handing the applicant an Exhibit 77.
I object, Your Honor. I haven't received this exhibit.
I have to look at it myself.
Okay, thank you.
And a copy of Exhibit 77 to the court, the original to the court administrator, and a copy of Exhibit 77 to Mr. Stevens. Now, Exhibit 77 is a 3-page exhibit. On the first page is entitled DMV Nevada Department of Motor Vehicles, Central Services and Records Division. It's dated September 18, 2006. Attention, William Stevens, from Laura. Do you recognize this exhibit, Mr. Stevens?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize it?
Because I'm the one who received the fax in our office.
Your Honor.
What's your objection?
My objection is to relevance, but let me just say, Your Honor, I say that because I think if there's something Ms. Kagan's trying to prove with this, perhaps I could just admit it and we could not spend an hour having, each and every little...
The time for admitting was 2 weeks ago.
Okay, but what if we're talking about getting a speeding ticket 6 years ago, and that's the whole reason for bringing Mr. Stevens here and for sitting here for an hour and taking up an hour of the...
So at this point, you'll stipulate that you had a speeding ticket?
I want to see what she's trying to prove.
Okay, so let her prove it. Okay, go ahead.
If you're asking me, will I stipulate to having a speeding ticket? As long
Do
as
we
I
have
have
any...
If Mr. Coughlin will not
Exhibits?
object to the admission of Exhibit 64, then we don't need Mr. Stevens' testimony regarding this matter.
Why don't you look at Exhibit 64?
Yes, Your Honor.
No.
And, Your Honor, I might just say, I can't stipulate to exhibits that I haven't been given.
64 you were given. Look
but
at
I
it.
wasn't given a lot of exhibits, right?
Okay. 64 you were given. Look at it.
The entire 1 through...
Yes, look at it. If you want more detail to come out, then don't stipulate.
But, Your Honor, even if all of this...
Do you stipulate or not?
No, Your
Okay,
Honor.
well,
But even
let's
if all this
ask the
can be
next
proven
question.
true, does that justify the time
Yes.
we're taking to prove I have a speeding ticket?
Yes.
Is that going to be, that's going to be, we turn this guy's down after 5 years and going through law school
Mr. Coughlin,
and this and that because he had a speeding ticket?
it's the issue of candor, cooperation. Okay? So it appears that you have a problem with candor and you have a problem with
I would suggest that candor
cooperation.
becomes hard to, it's hard to expect someone to have candor after some of the nefarious tactics that the
Understand
state
that.
bar
Are you willing
has
to
shown.
stipulate?
In the LAP program, the combative Sipowicz-like NYPD
Coughlin.
Blue type behavior that the
Mr.
state
Coughlin,
bar has
are you
exhibited.
ready to stipulate to Exhibit 64 coming into evidence? No. Okay, let's proceed.
Your Honor, I request that Exhibit 76 be moved into evidence.
It is.
I object, Your Honor.
It's admitted into evidence.
Your Honor, I request that Exhibit 77 be moved into evidence.
It's admitted
Your
into
Honor, I'd like
evidence.
to object to that as well.
Your objection is noted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Stevens, at some time during your investigation of Mr. Coughlin, did you perform an Internet search regarding his registration with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office?
Yes.
And what was the result of that investigation?
His name showed up as being registered with them. It provided a one-page or one-screen notation as to him. I printed it out and attached it to a memo.
Can you please turn in the witness binder to Exhibit 74? Exhibit 74 is a two-page exhibit. First page is dated May 7, 2007. It's a memorandum to Susan Kagan from Bill Stevens. And the second page is a United States Patent and Trademark Office printout. Do you recognize Exhibit 74, Mr. Stevens?
Yes, in its entirety.
And how do you recognize it?
My initials appear on the front page of the memo, and I recall having printed page 2.
And I request that Exhibit 74 be moved into evidence.
Is there any objection?
Object as a Internet printout, hearsay.
Overruled. You can cross-examine if you have an issue in terms of whether it's unreliable or not. But at this point, it's overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I have no further questions.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Stevens. How are you? Let's see. Mr. Stevens, what would you say the point of your testimony was today?
Objection, relevancy.
Sustained.
Mr. Stevens, what did you understand you were coming here to testify about today?
Objection, relevancy.
I'll let him answer that question in terms of your understanding of why you're here.
The authentication of, or I hope that's the right word, the authentication of documents connected with me in the investigation of applicant's moral character.
And those would be the DMV documents?
They were included in that, yes.
Were there other documents included of note?
Exhibit 74, I believe it was noted as.
Yes. And that included 74 included DMV documents and anything else of note? Maybe a state bar release, too?
I'm not sure that correctly states what we've just gone over.
Okay. Would you mind telling me what that is?
You asked me to identify what I was going to testify about. It was authenticating certain documents, the DMV ones, which are 77 and 76, and then 74, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office memo and printout.
Okay. Right. So, yes, and we don't need to discuss the patent office printout, do we? Or
Mr. Coughlin, it's your case.
okay. I'm sorry, Your Honor, but we had I'm just trying to understand. We had a discussion earlier about
It's your case. You need to do what you need to do. I'm not here to be your lawyer.
Okay. Did we establish that the patent matter is mute? Patent agent attorney distinction, is that mute? Or it seemed like you made a ruling on that earlier.
I didn't make a ruling on that.
You made some comment?
I made comment on it, and the State Bar decided to put that in the trial.
To persist in presenting that evidence despite your comment?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the next question?
Mr. Stevens, do you know whether I am a patent agent or attorney?
No.
You're an investigator?
Yes.
Were you not able to deduce that?
Objection, relevance.
I'm going to go ahead and let it in, if you can.
I recall what the question was.
Were you able to deduce with your investigational skills whether or not I'm a patent agent or attorney?
Yes.
And what was the conclusion?
The conclusion I reached was on looking at the data available that you are an agent.
And that data consisted of a printout you found after doing a Google search or something similar?
Yes.
Okay. Did you call the patent office and ask them?
No.
Did you make any direct contact with something you could interact with besides a Google search?
Interact?
Like ask a question, receive an answer?
No.
Okay. Why didn't you do that? Isn't it part of...
Let him answer.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't know if I can answer why I didn't do something.
Well, there's his answer. What's the next question?
Okay. Instead of saying why you didn't do something, tell me why you did choose not to call.
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay, so someone can say, I don't understand why I didn't do something.
Ask the next question.
Because I'm going to remember that one. I didn't understand
Ask the
why I
next
didn't
question.
do that. I don't... Okay. And what did your DMV investigation yield? What type of information did we find?
What was produced in Exhibit 77?
Hey, can you tell me the gist of that? You can't tell me the gist of it?
No.
Did you get paid for working on this?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Can you tell me what you get paid by the State Bar
Objection,
for working on these
relevance.
matters?
Sustained.
Am
Don't
I
ask
able to
the
ask
question.
him any questions
No.
about his compensation?
No.
So if he was paid $500,000 for this, I wouldn't be able to ask him?
That's correct.
Okay.
I've made my ruling. What's the next question?
Can you tell me, does that DMV printout say I got a speeding ticket? Or
Objection, beyond the scope of direct.
I'm going to go ahead and let him ask the question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure, Mr. Stevens, I'll repeat it. Does that DMV printout say I got a speeding ticket?
I don't know.
Okay. Would you mind considering that? It was your investigation, so I'm just trying to, get it straight from the guy who got paid for doing it,
Objection, argumentative. There was a
Sustained.
question there.
Sustained. Can you tell me, did I get a speeding ticket?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained. It has been asked and
Can
answered.
you tell me what the answer was?
He said he didn't know.
You don't know whether I got a speeding ticket. Can you give me your recollections about what you do know about me in this case and your involvement in the investigation?
Objection,
Do you
irrelevant,
remember
beyond the
anything?
scope of direct.
It's very broad and vague, and I'm going to sustain the objection
Okay.
on that. What's the next question?
Your Honor, if you can provide me with any direction as to what's important here.
I'm not your lawyer.
Okay. But
I'm-
earlier you said what we're really looking at is whether or not you reported this thing accurately, right?
I've done more than help you with this case, and it's as far as I'm ready to go.
Okay.
At this point, you're a lawyer,
I'm in
Nevada.
Nevada. In Nevada.
a lawyer nonetheless. So
Yeah.
you need to proceed like a lawyer.
So I'm a lawyer in one state, but not in this one.
Apparently.
Okay. Mr. Stevens, did you tell anyone during the course of your investigation any information about me?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Mr. Stevens, did you tell anyone that you thought or someone else thought I was an alcoholic during the course of your investigation?
Objection, relevance, and beyond the scope of direct.
You know, I'm going to go ahead and let him ask the question. I know it's beyond the scope of direct, but he can put him on as his own witness, and this is to save time. What's the question?
Did you tell anyone in the course of your investigation or otherwise anything related to me that indicates that you think someone else thinks that I'm an alcoholic?
I'd like to answer fully, keeping in mind that you provided us with an authorization and certain details about your personal life. I believe that armed with that authorization, I did question the people to which you referred us about the subject matters of your application.
And those people would, and please continue, I don't mean to interrupt you.
That's my answer.
That's your answer. And what did you say to them?
Whatever conversations I had with them, I recorded in memos that can speak for themselves. I don't recall the exact
I
wording
don't have
of each
those memos,
conversation.
Mr. Stevens, so perhaps you could speak for them.
Generally,
Sure. Well, how about tailored to what I asked you originally?
I spoke with your father, and we discussed his participation in Nevada's version for physicians of what we call the other bar, and he volunteered some information about you. I spoke with Mr. Torsen.
We're talking about what you volunteered about me, sir.
I'm sorry, I can't remember. I ask a lot of questions in the course of an interview.
What's your next question?
So you never asked anyone, do you consider Mr. Coughlin to be an alcoholic?
I can't say that I didn't. It's a question I would ask, probably.
Okay, were there any steps you took to maintain my confidentiality?
Yes.
What was that?
Within the confines of the general confidentiality of a moral character investigation, I proceeded with the authorization you gave us to LAP and to the State Bar in general, and asked only those questions of such people that could answer them with the knowledge of the release.
And what people did you contact?
All of them?
Yes.
Unless
There was just a whole big, giant list of people.
Will you
but
please let him answer the question?
I contacted your father, Dr. Timothy Coughlin, I believe is his name, your character witness, Tony Torsen, witnesses referenced in the application such as Mr. Trados, Ms. Smith, Mr. Staley, the Nevada Bar Association, the Nevada Department of Motor Vehicles, the California Department of Motor Vehicles, the Office of General Counsel at the State Bar, the bar examiners of the State Bar. I don't know if that's an exhaustive list, but those are some of the people I contacted.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell me what, in the course of your investigation, would you say was the most damaging material?
Objection, relevance, and also, Your Honor, this goes beyond the scope of direct.
No,
If
it
Mr.
goes beyond
Coughlin
the-
wants to call Mr. Stevens, he needs to subpoena Mr. Stevens.
I was told that all witnesses and exhibits that were listed by the State Bar would be available to me.
They're not available to you, but since he's here, you can call him as your witness. Why don't you call him as your witness?
Okay, should I do that after the cross-examination, or?
Sure.
Okay.
But I can advise you that this witness is not helpful
Oh, okay.
to you. And the more you go into it, the more detail that wasn't ever even presented is now being presented. You have opened this case wide open.
But not so far that I can't go beyond what was indirect.
Oh, I understand that. When I'm talking about the overall case,
Well, that's candorous to put a case wide open, isn't it? Is that displaying candor? Isn't that the issue in this case?
go ahead. I've tried to help you as much as I can. Go ahead.
Mr. Stevens, did you find any information in your investigation that would, I think the word is, be exculpating or tend to prove my character?
To prove your character, I don't know, would be exculpating, so I guess I might not understand the question.
Let's say somebody like Mr. Torsen said something about me that could be seen as showing I had character or
This is beyond the scope of direct.
Well, now, wait, direct was about proving my character, right?
No, it was about authentication of documents.
Which was for the purpose of...
Mr. Coughlin, I'm not going to argue with you anymore. I've told you it's beyond the scope of direct. I've given you a lot of leeway in terms of the direct and going beyond the scope of direct.
Yes, yeah.
I've given you more than I should have.
Okay.
So at this point, it is beyond the scope of direct.
And the scope of direct is chiefly to authenticate those documents.
Exactly.
And so even going into what those documents say, is that within the scope? Or is it just
It's what the documents say. He's already testified that he doesn't as to what the documents say. And the documents, frankly, speak for themselves.
Okay, Your Honor, I agree with you, and I have more questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
I have no further questions.
You may step down.
Can I call Mr. Stevens directly, though?
Sure, he's here. You can call him as your witness.
Okay.
And you're going to have to proceed, no leading questions.
Knowing my questions.
No leading questions.
No leading questions. Okay. Mr. Stevens, did you find any exculpating type material in your investigation?
Objection asked and answered.
I'm going to go ahead and let him ask that.
How did it be answered if you objected to it? And the judge ruled.
He wants to open it wide open, fine.
Did you find any material that would tend to hurt your case?
No.
No. So was your communication with Mr. Torsen, that wouldn't be material that would tend to hurt your case?
No.
And why is that, sir?
I don't have a case.
Okay, but the people who you work for and who pay you, their case?
No.
No. And Mr. Torsen's conversations and letter to you wouldn't tend to be something that's exculpating?
Again, we're back to exculpating again. You asked me if it would help or hurt our case. My case is to investigate your moral character. It's, I believe, neutral in that regard.
Right, and that's where I'm saying if you found something that maybe wasn't neutral to Miss Kagan's stance, where she wants to paint me with this brush.
Remember, no editorializing. Ask a question.
She's got a side, right? She's got an agenda that she's putting forth, and you're getting paid by her or her employers.
Objection.
I'm going to sustain the objection. This question is going nowhere.
If Mr. Torsen, can you tell me what Mr. Torsen told you or provided you with?
I can summarize generally what he said.
Okay, please do.
He said he'd known you 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
He met you in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, that you could be counted on, if asked, to chair the appropriate AA meetings, that he was not aware of your criminal background or of any lawsuits against you, that I believe he said he felt you were a good guy, that he may have known the member of the Nevada State Bar Association's Ethics Committee that you
Your Honor,
know.
objection hearsay.
Sustain.
He's not trying to prove the truth of the matter asserted, is he, Your Honor?
Why is it relevant?
Because it goes to character and candor, which I believe is the chief.
And not in this case.
It
Goes to his candor? It's totally irrelevant.
Goes to my candor.
It's hearsay.
But
And
it's
I'm
not
going to
being
sustain.
offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted.
Then it's not relevant at this point. Move on. What's the next
Can
question?
you continue telling me what Mr. Torsen told you?
Objection hearsay.
It's sustained.
He can tell me what the DMV told him.
Mr. Coughlin, please ask the next question.
He could talk about my father earlier and what my dad told him, but he can't talk about what an exculpating witness
I
tells
didn't hear him say anything about what your dad said.
Okay. Mr. Stevens, if you found something that was exculpating, would it be your responsibility to present that?
Present?
I guess to Ms. Kagan or whoever it is you're doing this investigation for?
Yes.
Okay, so you would do so? And did you tell Ms. Kagan about Mr. Torson and what he told you?
Can I speak about what I tell our attorney?
At this point, you can.
Yes, I told her.
You told her. And did you speak to Judge Charles McGee?
I didn't hear that question, I'm sorry.
Did you speak to Chuck McGee, Judge Charles McGee?
You know, I can't remember.
Okay, because he was one of the phone numbers
Okay,
given
wait.
with
The
Mr. Torson.
question. You can't editorialize.
I'm trying to jog his memory.
He says he doesn't remember, okay? Unless you have a document to present to him, let's move on to the next question.
Do you remember any, when you originally listed the individuals you spoke with, did you list Mr. Torson?
Yes.
You did. Was there any other individuals? I'm not talking about entities like the DMV or this bar or that bar. I'm talking about individuals that perhaps Ms. Kagan was given contact information for as character witnesses that you would have yourself wind up investigating.
Objection beyond his personal knowledge.
If you know.
I'm sorry to say this again, but I couldn't distill what the question was of that,
Did you talk to anybody else?
other than,
Yeah, I don't, like, for instance, how did you get Mr. Torson's contact info?
he provided it to us.
He provided it to you.
Yes.
As in, he sent a letter to you or to Ms. Kagan or...
He sent a letter to the State Bar Association. It's in the file.
And that was what spurred you to go and call him? You made a call, I assume, to him?
Yes.
And did you call anybody else
With regard to Mr. Torson?
with regard to me in your investigation?
Yes.
Objection asked and answered.
I'm going to go ahead and let it stand. Go ahead. Ask the next question. He answered yes.
Who were those individuals?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
I believe I listed them. I try again. Mark
Well, I don't
Trados.
need to know about the DMV, and I recall you
Let
saying...
him answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
I listed them a few minutes ago. I can go through the list again if
Okay,
you'd like.
please do.
Mr. Trados, Ms. Smith, Mr. Staley, the Nevada Bar Association, the Nevada DMV, the California DMV, your father, Timothy Coughlin, Tony Torson, our Office of General Counsel, our Office of Bar Examiners. It's not an exhaustive list, but that's all I can remember off the top of my head.
Okay. Sir, are you referring to something right now? Do you have something in front of you that you're reading from or looking at? But I noticed you're looking down. You're not looking at some notes or something.
No?
Okay.
What's the next question?
Did you make any attempt to... I noticed you call individuals stemming from all the incidents that Ms. Kagan is pushing. But did you call anybody?
Okay, and I'm going to sustain it.
Did you call anybody in an attempt to find out whether there was any exculpating evidence?
Yes.
Who?
I attempted to contact Judge McGee, to whom you referred, but the number either you or anybody provided to us was no longer good.
Okay, I'm confused because a minute ago you didn't know who Judge McGee was.
Right.
But now you were calling?
Yes.
Okay, and did you contact the Second Judicial District Court where Judge McGee is on the bench?
I don't think I did.
Okay, it's kind of like with the patent thing where you didn't call them earlier?
Objection argumentative.
Sustained.
Okay. So here you have a district court judge, and you have an
No
opportunity...
editorializing. Ask a question.
That's what he is.
I-
Editorializing would be giving an opinion on that, right?
So, okay, we have a district court judge, what? What's the
You're
question?
doing an investigation on my character, and a district court judge, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's opinions in California law that says their opinion in moral character cases
Question
is
is-
to be weighed heavily. It's to count a lot, from what I
Objection.
recall.
I'm going to sustain it. There's no question as far as I'm
Okay,
concerned.
so
What's the
why don't
question?
you try to talk to a district court judge and get his opinion about my character?
I can answer your question.
You
If
don't
I'm not,
need to tell me whether you can answer it
Okay,
or not.
he's
Just
saying
answer
he's,
if it's, as I recall, Judge McGee or McKee may also be a member of the California State Bar. And as such, he's required to keep his phone number current with us. Any attempt I made to contact him would have included his membership records phone number with the State Bar of California. Not reaching a person who's a member of the State Bar at that number, sometimes you move on to more promising leads in investigating a case.
what's your next
Like
question?
Mark Trados.
In this case or
Yeah.
any case?
This case.
I don't know what you're asking.
Well, I'm asking you, that would be a more promising lead, a guy like Mark Trados.
I called Mr. Trados at his California State Bar AS400 or membership records phone number.
Mr.
and
Stevens, I'm just
he
asking you if
responded.
that would be a more promising
Answering the
lead.
question.
Okay.
You don't like the answer. What's the next question?
I'm asking him, would that be
The next
considered a more
question.
promising lead?
Objection, relevance.
Sustain.
Would it be more promising because it's more obviously negative?
Mr.
Objection, relevance.
Sustain.
Would you train the focus of your investigation onto that which appears to be
At this point,
more
I'm going to
obviously
stop you
negative?
from questioning any more questions because it seems to me that it's totally, at this point, irrelevant.
Okay.
And we're not getting anywhere.
One more
So
question.
I'm going to exercise my right to limit your cross-examination at this point unless you can get to the point.
Yes, Your Honor. Can you tell me
That
what...
means I will give you another 5 minutes.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Can you tell me why you didn't make any contact with the Second Judicial District Court in an attempt to reach Judge McGee there?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustain.
Can you tell me, do you think it would be important to get a district court judge's opinion on an
Objection,
applicant?
relevance.
Sustain.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have any more?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. You may step down.
Your Honor, may we take a 2-minute recess?
Yes.
Thank you. And the State Bar will call Lynn Thingbold to the stand next.
Okay, and that's, what's
That's
she going to
regarding
do?
the rest of the DMV.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Back on the record.
Back on the record.
The State Bar calls Lynn Thingvold to the stand.
Chief, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence that you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Please be seated and state and spell your first and last name for the record.
My first name is Lynn, Lynnne. My last name is Thingvold, T as in Tom, Hing, V as in Victor, Old.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Thingvold.
Hello.
Are you employed?
Yes,
Where are you employed?
at the State Bar of California, Office of the Chief Trial Counsel,
And what is your title?
paralegal,
How long have you been a paralegal with the State Bar of
approximately
California?
19 years.
19?
Mhm.
Did you have an opportunity to work on the matter of the moral character case, Zachary B. Coughlin?
Yes.
And as part of your work on this matter, were you at all in contact with the Nevada Department of Motor Vehicles?
Yes, I believe I sent them a letter.
And what was the purpose of the letter?
To obtain more documents from them.
When you say more documents, were there other documents that we had received from them that you were aware of?
My understanding, I believe I had a copy of a DMV printout that I received from either you or Mr. Stevens, I can't recall at the moment, and it indicated at the bottom of the document that there were other documents that we may want to try and obtain.
Now, the document that you were just
Your
referring
Honor,
to.
objection, the relevance, I don't know what
Overruled.
we're doing with DMV stuff still.
Overruled.
We're going to spend 3 hours on DMV stuff?
It's overruled. Let's
Yes, Your
move
Honor.
on.
Ms. Thingvold, I'd like you, as part of the witness finder, there's an exhibit 77. Do you recognize exhibit 77?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize it?
I believe this is the document that I was just referring to from the Department of Motor Vehicles from Nevada, and down at the bottom it had different citation and conviction dates for, I guess, convictions.
And was that the letter that you're referring to that spurred you to write another letter to the DMV?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach? Let the record reflect that I am handing Mr. Coughlin a copy of what's been marked Exhibit 75. And I'm handing the court a copy of Exhibit 75.
Thank you.
And the original to the court administrator. And a copy of Exhibit 75 to Ms. Dinggold.
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor, on the basis of this only being given to me right now.
Overruled.
Exhibit 75 is a 5-page exhibit. The first page is a letter dated September 19, 2006 to Nevada DMV from Lynn Thingvold.
Correct.
Ms. Thingvold, do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize this exhibit?
I believe I'm the one who authored the letter.
And what happened to the letter after you authored it?
I believe I mailed it, sent it to the Nevada DMV.
Did you ever receive a response from the Nevada DMV in response to this letter?
I believe so.
Do you recall what that was?
I believe it was in response to my request for, in the second paragraph of the letter, what I was requesting. I believe they were responding to that.
And that would be a driver's license data 10-year record,
Correct.
citation, charging documents, and conviction documents for
Correct.
conviction on 1903 of speeding, citation R115317,
Yes.
citation, charging documents, and conviction documents for conviction on 12005 of speeding, citation number 00009828687,
Correct.
failure to appear, citation number 102053878A, and disposition.
Correct.
Failure to appear, citation number 102497085B, and disposition.
Correct.
And failure to appear, citation number 102497085A, and disposition.
Yes.
Ms. Thingvold, I'd like you to turn to what's been marked Exhibit 34, or what's actually, in the witness binder.
Okay, would it be 64 or 34?
64. Did I say 34? I apologize.
I'm
Exhibit
sorry,
64.
what is the number again?
64.
64?
Exhibit 64 is a 14-page exhibit. And the first page is State of Nevada Department of Motor Vehicles, Central Services Records Division.
Yes.
Do you recognize Exhibit 64?
Yes, I do. I believe this is what they sent back. I received back from them in response to my letter.
Your Honor, I request to have Exhibit 64 moved into evidence.
64 is admitted into evidence.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Hello, Ms. Thingvold. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Ms. Thingvold, can you tell me what these charges are for?
Objection, relevance.
I'm going to go ahead and let you ask the question. I'm going to overrule the objection.
I'm sorry, will you state the question again for me?
Can you tell me basically what this DMV record says? What was I convicted of? What did I
Are
do?
you referring to Exhibit 64?
Yes.
No, I can't tell you what you were what it indicates that you may have been convicted of, but I did notice at the bottom of this page that there was a citation date, a conviction date, a court date, a violation code, a citation number. So, no, I can't tell you what you were convicted of.
So if this was a charge for driving 10 miles over the speed limit, you wouldn't know?
Objection, relevance,
No,
and beyond
but-
her personal knowledge.
I'm going to overrule the objection. She's indicated no, she wouldn't know. So what's the next question?
So do we know whether these are for speeding or some other type of infraction?
No.
We
I don't know.
we have no idea what these are for?
I don't, no.
You don't. Okay. Did you not follow up on that with the DMV when you received these documents?
No, I didn't.
So we just know it was a citation for speeding? Because I believe the letter to...
Why don't you just ask the question?
Okay, well, in your letter, Ms. Thingvold, it says you're requesting citation charging documents for my 1903 speeding citation.
I'm sorry, you're referring to my letter, Exhibit 65, or 75?
That's correct.
And number,
Paragraph 2.
okay, and number 2?
Paragraph 2 of page 1, where it begins, I am requesting the following documents from your agency. And you go on to mention a speeding citation ending in the last three letters, 317
Yes.
from 1903. In Exhibit 64, that would be the citation referred to, right? The bottom of page 64, or I mean Exhibit 64, page 1.
Objection, vague.
Okay, if you know. I think he's referring to 00982-687.
Well, actually, perhaps, but I was referring to the one that ends in 317. That's right above that, R115317, and prior to that, it says a 1903 speeding.
What's your question in reference to
I'm
that?
trying to establish that that citation is for speeding.
Okay.
Okay,
So
because-
what's the next question?
Well, we're going to put these into evidence, right? And we have no idea what they're for. So maybe it would be helpful if we knew what they were for.
I think the court knows what they're for,
Okay.
so I don't need any help.
Okay. So can we stipulate that these are basic speeding citations? Speeding tickets, no more?
No. Exhibit 64 is in evidence, and it speaks for itself. Okay? There's failures to appear in it.
Okay.
Notice of failures to appear.
And-
There's citations.
And
If you
there-
want to go into it in detail and, that's fine.
Okay, and Ms. Thingvold, do these failure to appears, do they relate to the speeding citations?
Objection, beyond her personal knowledge.
Sustained.
Can you tell me what these failure to appears relate to?
Objection, irrelevant and beyond her personal knowledge.
Sustained.
Ms. Thingvold, you'll notice on these failure to appears, one ends in 878A and the other one ends in... I'm sorry, correct that. One ends in 085B and one ends in 085A. Are those related to the same ticket?
Objection, beyond her personal knowledge, beyond the scope of direct, and irrelevant.
Sustained on beyond the scope and also beyond her personal knowledge.
Ms. Thingvold, can you confirm on page 2 of Exhibit 64 that those failure to appears stem from 2000 and 2001?
Objection, relevance beyond her personal knowledge. Document speaks for itself.
I'm going to overrule the objection, but the document does speak for itself.
I don't have any other knowledge other than what the document says.
And the document says for all three of these failure to appears that are listed here, the 878A and the 085A and 085B, which both stem from the A and B ones I just mentioned, both stem from the same date, 5/31/01, and the 878A stems from 2/24/2000. Those are the dates of those, correct? So there's some time ago, right?
I can only say what this piece of paper says, and it has an end date of the date that you just gave.
Okay. And can failure appears be for failure to have proof of insurance?
Objection beyond her personal knowledge.
And that's sustained based
Okay.
on that.
Can failure appears stem from a failure to have proof of registration
Objection beyond her
or an
personal
expired
knowledge.
registration?
It's sustained, and it's also irrelevant. The issue is you didn't report these failure to appears, and you were supposed to report them.
And that's for sure, right?
That's the issue.
Because the application says for sure you have to report a speeding ticket.
Failures to appear.
Okay, but does it say you have to report a speeding ticket? If
Mr.
you-
Coughlin, it says what it says. Let's move on and ask the next question.
Okay.
I'm suggesting that you might want to go to what's relevant.
Okay. Yes, Your Honor.
What's the next question?
Ms. Thingvold, if I could direct you to Exhibit 1, page 12.
Yes.
Can you tell me, is a speeding violation, does that come within what's required from the second paragraph that instructs you as to what you need to answer, what you need to report?
Objection beyond her personal knowledge. Relevance beyond the scope of direct.
Okay. Ms. Thingvold, can you see where it says, in answering the following questions, you should include all such incident and convictions? This is in the State Bar's application.
Same objection, Your Honor.
I haven't finished my question, Your Honor, and Ms. Kagan certainly got to read all
Continue to
afternoon.
ask your question.
What's that?
Go ahead and finish
Okay, thank you.
asking the question, and then let
I'm
me
just
jump.
telling you where this is from. It's from the State Bar's application to practice law. They're more character. It's under the sections which directs you what convictions you need to report. And it says, in answering the following questions, you should include all such incidents and convictions, no matter how minor the incident. And it goes on to tell you what that means. Traffic violations which must be reported under this question include failure to appear, driving without a license, driving with a suspended license, and reckless driving, as well as other traffic violations that result in misdemeanor or felony convictions. Can you tell me, in your research and in these documents that you're here to verify, do those speeding tickets qualify as any of those?
Objection, relevance beyond the scope of direct, beyond her personal knowledge.
How is that not relevant?
The issue, I'm going to sustain the objection. And I don't think it's relevant in terms of coming from this witness.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
In other words, her interpretation of this application is meaningless
Okay.
to this court.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Thankful, do you perform legal research for Ms. Kagan?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Ms. Singleton, can you tell me what type of work you did on this case?
Objection beyond the scope of direct.
Sustained.
Ms. Singleton, can you tell me how you would describe the purpose of your testimony here today?
Objection,
What it
relevant.
was getting across?
Sustained.
Because I don't understand how this differs from Mr. Stevens authenticating these documents earlier. How at all is this different?
Exhibit 64 went into evidence as a result.
But it's the same documents as what's in...
It's not all the same, but you know what? You need to ask the next question.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Singvold, in Exhibit 64, page 3, does that say that, with regard to the failure up here, that one can pay a late fee or a fine for failing to appear and taking care of whatever underlying citation there was, and then that thereupon one will be able to drive again and have their license?
Objection, relevance.
I'm going to go ahead and let her look at page 3, and
Okay. I don't know, I'd have to read it.
why don't you take
Okay.
an opportunity to read it.
And your question again?
Does this document basically say that in order to prevent the suspension of one's driving privilege, one need pay the fine related to this failure to appear, and thereupon doing so, the driving privilege will not be suspended?
I believe it says you can prevent the suspension if you pay the court fine and obtain a clearance from the court before 6/27. I think those were two different two
thank
things.
you. And on page 4, Ms. Thingvold, can you tell me, dealing with citation 085B, which is mentioned in your letter of Exhibits 75, does that say that this charge relates to having proof of insurance?
It appears to.
Okay, so that's the failure to appear then would be for not paying the fine and presenting proof of insurance on time.
Objection beyond her personal knowledge.
It's also irrelevant.
How is this relevant?
It's a notice of a failure to appear. You were supposed to report it to the State Bar. You did not report it to
Okay.
the State Bar.
Okay.
Relevant.
Have we established that I didn't report it to the State Bar?
Yes, I think you admitted that you didn't.
No, I don't recall doing that.
Well, at any rate, it didn't appear on your application. Let's go on to the next question.
Well, now the convictions, the speeding tickets don't need to be on the application, right, Your Honor? Those aren't listed within page 12 of the application, Exhibit 1.
I can't function as your attorney.
I know, but I'm just asking for relevancy's sake. Why are we talking about speeding tickets when they're not even
Talking
convictions?
about failures to appear. You
Well,
didn't report.
half of this day was spent showing
Go
speeding
on to
tickets.
the next question. What is the next question?
I don't have any more questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down.
Your Honor, for clarification, we didn't know what these charges were for. Exhibit 64, page 8, indicates the one ending in 085 is for an expired license plate.
Yes.
Okay, just so we know. I mean, to march in accordance, you were convicted of these three things and have no idea what they are.
Two is failure to report,
Okay, fine.
failure to appear, and failure to report. Okay, so, Mr. Coughlin, do you have any other witnesses?
Your Honor, the only other witness I have is Dr. Tucker, but I understand that we're going to convene again on May 17th for that
Okay.
testimony.
And he will be able to appear in person?
I have not heard back from him. I've left 2 messages.
Okay. And, Mr. Coughlin, do you have any more evidence?
I'd like to call Ms. Kagan to the stand.
You're not going to be allowed to call her, so any other witnesses?
May I ask why?
No.
Okay.
Do you have any witnesses?
I'd also like to point out, Your Honor, that citation
Mr. Coughlin.
878A is for an expired license plate as well.
Do you have any other witnesses?
Yes, I'd like to call myself.
You can.
Okay. And testify in a narrative format?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yes, you can. And also, you are under oath. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, I'd like to point out that in Exhibit 1, page 12, under convictions, speeding tickets are not listed under what needs to be reported.
Go ahead.
And this further, to address the candor issue, I'd like to point out some things that were reported. Your Honor, every arrest I had was reported promptly to both state bars. And the things that were Ms. Kagan is saying have not been reported are pale in comparison to those. They're the types of small clerical oversights that previous opinions from this court have mentioned as, particularly in a case where one has reported something far more serious. The court has deemed those as to be so minor as to be inconsequential in bearing upon the issue of candor and character. Specifically in this regard, I would point to Ms. Kagan's mincing attempts at distinguishing between being a patent attorney and patent agent.
I'm going to object to that characterization.
I'm going to overrule the objection.
Further, a failure to appear for something as minor as not having proof of insurance or being late to pay the fine for a proof of insurance, or being late to send in the fine for not having a expiration sticker on one's license plate is a mincing attempt as well as showing some lack of candor on Ms. Kagan's part, particularly where someone has self-reported in regard to alcohol use, thus resulting in extensive invasion of privacy and involvement with the lab program, as well as where someone has reported an arrest and subsequent conviction for dry reckless